Hello, this is John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Just checking sound for those online. Get a thumbs up from someone from our staff that's online. Thank you very much.
Okay, so it is 9 o'clock and I'm going to call this meeting to order. Trustee Buga, can you please do the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Chair Gibbons. Sturgeon Public Schools respectfully acknowledges that we teach, learn, and grow together on Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. We honor and respect the history, languages, ceremonies, and cultures of the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples who have called this land home for countless generations. We recognize the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Dene, Métis, Nakota Sioux, and Inuit for their care, love, and stewardship of this place. June is Indigenous History Month, and we're approaching the National Day of Indigenous Peoples on Friday. In this time of growth in our hearts, our minds, and on the land, we're especially grateful for those who share their knowledge with us and help to foster respectful relationships with all of our relatives on this land. We learn from elders, knowledge keepers, parents, and community members about the history of this land and what our future together can look like. We are committed to understanding the harms done in the name of education and continuing to honor the true spirit of Treaty 6 as a promise of friendship, collaboration, and peaceful alliance. I would like to encourage everyone to take part in some of the many amazing celebrations of Indigenous culture coming up in the next few days.
Thank you. Can I get a motion for the approval of the agenda? Trustee Pequin, all in favor? Unanimous. Okay. 4.1, the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting of May 22nd, 2024. Can I get a motion for the approval? Trustee Otway-McClay, all in favor? Carried unanimously. Approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of May 28th, 2024. Can I get a motion for that approval? Trustee Otway-McClay, all in favor? Carried unanimously. We are going to go to 7. We don't have any presentation. There's extra people in the room, so I thought I better ask. Action item 7.1, organizational and first public board meeting 2024. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So there is a recommended motion here for the board to approve the date of the organizational meeting and the first public board meeting of the 24-25 school year.
Can I get someone to put forward the motion? Trustee Briggs.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve the date of August 28th, 2024 for the organizational meeting and the first public board meeting of the 24-25 school year to be held at the Frank Robinson Education Center in Morinville at 9 a.m.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
No.
Does anybody want to speak for the motion? Does anybody want to speak against the motion? I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the date of August 28th, 2024 for the organizational meeting and the first public board meeting of the 2024-2025 school year to be held at the Frank Robertson Educational Center in Morinville at 9 a.m. All in favor? Unanimous. 7.2, the 2024-2025 Student Advisory Committee schedule. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. Again, this is recommendation for the board to consider the schedule as per policy 230 for the Student Advisory Committee. And so just in response to some of our students that have been on the advisory committee, that online has not felt that they have felt that they are engaged in its bringing the value that we were looking for. So we are actually recommending to the board that it would be 2 in person. And we are still looking at format and if there's any other questions, but that was based on the feedback. And just a reminder, when we're working with our student advisory committee, that we are removing children from students from their learning from the entire day. So it's to be mindful of that also. But it is for board's consideration to have 2 meetings instead of 2 meetings plus an online. And I will ask Deputy if you wanted to add anything else.
Mr. Conrad?
John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Just to echo the superintendent's comments, 2 full meetings would be wonderful with these young people. It is one of many ways that administration engages with students, through survey, through councils, through other means in schools that our principals are already involved with kids and our leadership here is, but it stands out as unique that this is board sponsored and aligned with your advocacy committee. So these dates are considering of, early, but not too early so that we have the right people in place and we can get this done. And then late, but not too late, so that if there's more conversations to have in school after that last event, that was why we picked 2 in this pattern.
Can I get someone to put forward the motion? Trustee Buga?
I move that the Board of Trustees approve that the 2024-2025 Student Advisory Committee meetings take place in a host school on Tuesday, October 29th, 2024 in person, and in a different host school on Tuesday, April 15th, 2025 in person.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
I would. I am very much in favor of this, and I appreciate the dates that have been chosen, clearly intentionally making sure that we're not running into track and field time and exam time and some of the stressful times for our older students. So I believe that this is going to be fantastic dates coming up.
Does anybody else want to speak to the motion? Does anyone want to speak in opposition of the motion? Okay, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve that the 2024-2025 Student Advisory Committee meeting take place in a host school on Tuesday, October 29th, 2024 in person, and a different host school on Tuesday, April 15th, 2024 in person. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, 7.3 Camilla and storage facility approval. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I will be turning this over to the Associate Superintendent, Corporate Services.
Thank you, Superintendent. There was previously a question around what was going on with the Camilla storage facility. Previously, the board on February 23rd approved a motion for the projects listed in the report here. The Four Winds storage facility, it was approved $50,000 for each storage facility, at one for Four Winds, one for Camilla. The Four Winds one came in at around $130,000. So they were above what was kind of approved for that. And there was no money left for the Camilla one. So we're bringing forward a motion to approve additional funds to support the Camilla storage facility. There's about $2 million in, at this very moment, as long as no one brings forward any other things, there's about $2 million sitting in capital reserves that's not spoken for. So I'll leave it for any questions. Trustees.
Now I get someone to put forward the motion. Trustee Otway McClay.
I move that the Board of Trustees approve $135,000 of capital reserves to be allocated to the construction of the Camilla storage facility.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I have a question. So you mentioned that we have some unallocated reserve. This is a very small amount given that number, but do you foresee anything else popping up? Like, do we have anything kind of on our radar that might end up having to come out of that budget?
Yes. There is, as the trustees know, a lot of deferred maintenance out in the schools. I think some of those dollars could be used to support some of our aging infrastructure and mechanical issues and things like that. It is my plan to eventually bring forward some potential projects to help spend those dollars to the board for approval. Yeah.
Trustee Buga?
Thank you. I'm in support of the motion. I do have a question just to confirm that the storage facility would include access to, I know that there was some challenges trying to get in and out of the storage facility at Four Winds just due to a lack of a ramp and that kind of thing. So just making sure that that 135 will include all of that, so that there's not additional fees on top of that.
I'll make note of that.
Steve Briggs?
I guess my question is more the logistics. How did we go from 50,000 to 130,000? I don't remember this coming back to the board. And it concerns me that we spent it all in one school and forgot about another school.
Looking into this, I don't think it was properly estimated. Overall, they didn't go over the bottom line of the approval of the 540, because some other projects were under. I think with employee transition in the department, it was obviously overseen. But I wasn't around during that time, so that's all I can speak to.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, and I'm glad this is in front of us. I kind of have the same question as Cindy, like, and it's not, I don't want to particularly go to this one, but all, like, if something we voted on and approved is changed, that should come back to us in some way or fashion. And the other side of it is, I believe I heard that the costs were up from the estimate. And okay, I agree with that, but at the same time, where's that conversation about what can we do? We do a little less or more or whatever. So in this, it really bothers me about how this process went through, understanding it was previous. So I just wanted to get that out, and I'm glad it's in front of us today because it's well needed there.
I will do my best to ensure that doesn't happen again.
Trustee Pequin?
What is it for? Like, what are we storing in here? And does every school have, like, I don't understand. If the need is there, that's great. What is the need or the why?
Trustee Dwyer?
It really basically comes down to all the outside stuff that is needed and that can't be stored within the school. So that's what it basically comes down to. I mean, they've got garden type stuff they're starting gardens in the back, and there's things to get water out there, and a motor or a pump and all that type of thing. So these are all things that go into that, and it's needed. And even in our janitor with our for cleaning sidewalks, they have our snow blowing machines and stuff like that. They need to go in there. Those type of things. I'll basically say that I'm just saying that out of my head. I haven't really talked to the principal exactly his plan, but those are the type of things that would go in there.
Trustee Briggs?
Trustee Pequin, you ask a really good question. So are we setting the standard as a board that every school is going to have a storage facility in the future?
Trustee Otway-McClay?
It's my understanding that it's by school need, i.e. Guthrie, Nemeo needed sea cans for storage. They sourced those out. I believe Nemeo Parent Council fundraised for the shed there. But rules kind of changed after that it was more of a school division thing than a parent council thing. So I think that some point over the last 10 years, it went from being one group's responsibility to somebody saying, this is really an educational piece. I get the storage needs are there. Like, you can't put a gas powered anything inside of a school, you have to keep it separate. So, I can appreciate the need. Good question. Is it necessary does every school need one? Does everybody who need one get one? But, yeah, there's always storage at schools. I don't even know, how many do the comp have? 2 or 3 cans, I believe? If they took one of Guthrie's? Yeah, so storage is a issue for all of the, or at least all of the schools I'm aware of.
Trustee Peckwood?
I'm not saying that storage isn't an issue, but I'm pretty sure a C can or two is a lot significantly cheaper than $130,000 for a pretty shed. Prettier, I don't know what the difference is. I'm kind of unsure. So I mean, I would and get used C cans that don't leak for significantly less money than that. And I know it aesthetically isn't as pleasing, but it still has the same function and can save us a few dollars. I would prefer that option, which is not an option on the table right now.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
Well, especially given that originally it had been approved at 50,000 per, and now we're over 130, 135. So inflation, I guess, but that might prompt us to look at other options.
Trustee Dwyer?
I shut myself off now. Can't shut myself on. No, I can shut myself off. I believe just on that, I believe the budget was 100,000 that was approved. For both. Was it for both? Okay, sorry, I misunderstood that.
Trustee Oatway McClay?
I just want to say, valid points. I think it's going to come up in terms of what our priorities are with the deferred maintenance and things like that. From my perspective, this was previously approved, so it's going to be hard to kind of go back on in terms of with the public. However, going forward, I probably would not bring things like this forward because I would like to address our deferred maintenance first, and mechanical issues, but.
Trustee Oatway McClay?
Yeah, Associate Superintendent Sean just spoke my words. Like we approved this. We said we were going to do this. I don't really like how the budget has changed, but we did approve it. I think we have to go through with it based on just that original approval. They were expecting it, and now we're going to take it away. Maybe not the best idea.
Trustee Peckwood?
I think we were financially in a way different position back then. I'm not saying we take it away, but I would sure like us to explore different options because financially we're not in the same position as when we approved this. So if we could bring this cost down in case a boiler breaks, which is a $100,000 fix, I mean, I would be in favor of changing the motion to look at more economical and feasible. The storage facility they need, absolutely. But if we can do it in a more economical fashion, I don't see why not, as they get this facility.
Trustee Briggs?
So if we approve the motion today, is the plan for it to be done in the summer for the fall time? Or can we take some time and bring this back to the table in August?
We can always bring it back to the table.
And I agree. We did approve it at $50,000, not 135. So I think would be beneficial for the board to explore some options.
Trustee Oatway?
Maybe high school construction could build a shed. It's like a giant birdhouse. Just a thought.
I
Trustee Dahl?
Oh, jeez. I understand all the concerns there, but I think we can pass this motion and then ask our admin, our maintenance people to work with the school on a better, the cheapest option we can go with there, make that change and hopefully come back less. At least get it going forward in some direction.
Trustee Briggs?
So is the plan for it to be constructed over the summer? I'm just wondering how much time we have for this.
We haven't moved forward. We got estimates, but we haven't moved forward with a plan to construct because we're waiting for kind of what's going on here. So we can shift to whatever the board's will is on this.
So we have the time.
Trustee Peckman?
If we amended the motion that we approved to a maximum of 135 on a facility, then does that leave administration with enough flexibility to pivot if they need to bring in seed cans or whatever else, like, so that you guys could, like, I think we're all in agreement that they need it. So can we pivot that to you guys come up with the best solution that works for the school, keeping the fiscal responsibility in mind? Because I have enough faith in you guys that you can figure out the best and cheapest, not necessarily cheapest, but the most economically responsible decision while still providing them what they need. So if we just change the wording, does that cover it, or can we leave the wording as it is and still pivot that little bit? I don't know the procedure on that.
Yeah, we could approve Sean Nicholson, Associate Superintendent Corporate Services. Sorry, I forgot to do that because we're online. Yes, you could approve up to 135 and we could be instructed to go back and look at what we can do for cheaper options, for sure. I do think there's potentially some things that we could reduce out of the Camille storage facility, because the Four Winds one, from my understanding, there were some extras in there that we could maybe look at reducing. This was brought forward to make it comparable just because they were approved together, and not to create a situation where it was a kind of have and have not. But we can definitely take it back and go look at options and try and bring down the cost.
Trustee Peckman, would you like to amend the motion?
Actually, if I couldn't word one, sure. I'm going to amend the motion to read that the Board of Trustees approve to a maximum of $135,000 of capital reserves to be allocated to the Camilla storage facility. They take up the construction and we don't have to build it. Is that?
Any questions on the amendment? Okay, so first we have to approve the amendment. So the question is that the Board of Trustees approve to a maximum 135,000 of capital reserves to be allocated to the Camilla storage facility. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, so that one's carried. Oh, right. So the motion now is that the Board of Trustees approve to a maximum 135,000 of capital reserves to be allocated to the allocated to the Camilla storage facility. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, 7.4 omnibus motion for locally developed course approval. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I will turn this over to the Deputy. This report does come forward to the board every year. And so, but in case you need any reminders as to how we use these locally developed courses, if the board approves them, how we access them, et cetera, or if we choose to or not, because we did talk about it last year, but I will turn it over to the Deputy.
John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Thank you, Chair and Superintendent. We are seeking through board approval, a motion that will allow our schools to access these locally developed courses. Locally developed courses are built by any school division, are approved by Alberta Education for use within high school education, but can only be used within our high schools should the board approve them. To remind the board, this process every year begins with us sharing the full catalog with all administration in high schools. Then when they come back and we actually go back and forth a bit of conversation, we clarify what is in use, what will be continued, and is there any new course that is interesting or engaging that we believe will support our kids. The courses in front of you represent what our administration in communication with Ed Services have said, these are good, we're using them, or we'd like to use them. So there, you can see there's a few new ones on here we haven't seen, some exciting ones. They're all exciting. But some I think that stand out as a very interesting new place for Sturgeon to go. So prepared to take any questions on the courses in front of you or on the process.
Steve Buga.
Thank you, Chair. Just before we put forward the motion, I just wanted to ask to confirm voting these in gives our high schools access to them, not necessarily they will be, all of them will be provided, correct?
If I may just confirm verbally, yes, this allows us to have access to, does not mandate that we will use them.
Can I get someone to put forward the motion? Trustee Marie Elliott.
Commissioner Marie Elliott, Ward 4, I move that the Board of Trustees approve the following locally developed courses as courses of study within the Sturgeon Public School Division from September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2027 and 2028, as listed in the agenda report.
Would you like to speak to the motion?
I really appreciate that we are always looking for and providing excellent additional programming to our students. That is, as you say, interesting and engaging. And so I think this is wonderful and I really appreciate it.
Does anybody else want to speak to the motion? Trustee Pequin?
I love this. This is my favorite one. I have a question. So if we get a new student in halfway through and like, we're like, oh my gosh, this course would have been perfect for them, but the board didn't approve it. How do we, like halfway through a school year? We can't, like, we have to decide right now, all of them for next year. So like, can we just approve all of the locally developed ones that have ever been made so they can have access to whatever they want?
Mr. Conrad?
That's kind of a wonderful idea, but in practice, actually takes quite a bit of work to research, ensure we have instructor capacity, and also even in our systems, you have to put quite a bit of work and effort in order to like there's a lot of the stuff in education that just takes some time. So what I suggest to anyone listening online and yourself, Trustee Pequin, is should you become aware of an exciting locally developed course through whatever means, let's bring that to local administration. Let's get our school leaders excited about this possibility, and we'll get it in. There's a lot of great courses that are already in the regular high school, like all the CTS streams and all those strands and things that we can do. We also have dual credit courses that we can do that don't need to go through this process that we can spin up pretty quick. And we have this. So we actually have like hundreds of courses. If you find another one, and you yourself, but really anyone that says this is a really cool thing, just talk with school administration and they will be the ones to really start that ball going. So thank you for your question.
Trustee Briggs?
I really always like introducing new courses. Is there a financial cost to our division for these courses to run them? As the audio one in the aviation? And how many students would be in these courses?
Mr. Conrad?
I don't have the specific information on how many students, because that again would be the school to determine whether they have the resources to staff student interest of 1 or student interest of 15 or student interest of 30, or whether the course could be combined. Maybe we could do audio 15 and 25 to get to that magic number of however many kids I need to do in my building. So I can't speak to exactly how many students will be in these courses. But again, the school leadership has said, we want to be able to offer these courses. As opposed to costs to do these properly, I think every course comes with a recognition of what those costs are. And again, administration is looking at the budgets that they have, the facilities that they have, how much can we do with what we have, or how much do we need to seek new equipment? But it wouldn't be outside the expectation of any other course that we're engaged in. Like I will say optional programming, CTS programming. I suggest most of these locally developed courses are closer aligned to that, not all of them here, but many of them to that CTS programming. So they do come with a recognition, do I have the facility or area to do really good sound production? Versus if it's, I love math, I really do, but a math course comes with less demands on unique facility to support that instruction.
And I guess the reason why I'm asking is because the aviation flight one is a new one to our division, and we haven't really had a cost breakdown to the board on what it would cost. When you look at aviation, that doesn't sound cheap. So I was just wondering if we could have a cost possibly brought forward to the board at some point.
Administration will take that recommendation and we'll seek to bring back the right information for you.
Any other questions on the motion? Trustee Otway-McClay?
I just, actually, that last interaction made a question pop in my head. CTS, is CTS programming not mostly the responsibility of the student? Like the cost of CTS programming?
Mr. Conrad?
Being a CTS teacher from the past, the core instruction and setup is actually, like any course, budgeted for and understood will be provided. The challenge is that a lot of CTS will have enhanced material, enhanced other things that will then, before the student signs up for, be communicated. Should you get into this and you want to build that out of mahogany, you know what, that's going to be an extra cost than this pine that we have here. Example.
Seeing no other hands, I'm going to call the question that the Board of Trustees approve the following locally developed courses as courses of study within the Sturgeon Public School Division for September 1st, 2024 to August 31st, 2027 and August 31st, 2028. All in favor? Unanimous. 8.1, 2024 Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellent. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Just provided for the board's information. We are very excited to celebrate Christina Defoe's this award that is the Minister's Award, and it is we will be shouting it far and wide. As you know, the presentation in Ottawa, the official presentation was yesterday, and so this is exciting to announce that, and we will look at how we communicate that far and wide moving forward. But we are headed into summer, so just for now, we're going to let Christina enjoy her celebration in Ottawa, and then we can talk about what does that look like if for the board moving forward to recognize her. That can be brought forward in August, but I'm sure when she gets back that we will be pushing that out to the media, just as indicated, and we're very excited to celebrate this. And I think it is a huge indicator as how we are growing STEAM and STEM opportunities in our division, and it just speaks to the excellent work that's being done by our teachers and our leaders.
Thank you. 8.2 Fine Arts Report. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you. Just in, as the board knows, over the past 3 years, we've been looking at what information to bring forward so that the board feels that they can fulfill their fiduciary responsibility. So this Fine Arts Report is, this is the first time you are seeing this type of report. And so we thought this would be something of interest to support the board. And so I will turn this over to Mr. Stephen.
Dan Stephen, Division Principal. We've prepared this Fine Arts Report to showcase the breadth and depth of fine arts programming in Sturgeon Public Schools. Outside of the great work of our staff, that our staff do with curriculum. We wanted to highlight the excellent opportunities we're providing students in fine arts. These opportunities include musicals, fine arts academies, drama clubs, and an ever-growing drumline, to name a few. The culminating activity that brings it all together was the fantastic Creative Arts Festival at Sturgeon Composite High School and the always popular Sturgeon Night of Music at the Winsper Center in Edmonton. Moving forward, we are seeing an increasing interest in band at the junior high level, as well as an expanding number of fine arts courses for students to take in high school. You have the report to peruse. Administration is prepared to take any questions.
Trustee Buga?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. I very much appreciate this report because it's easy to forget how much we're doing from elementary all the way to high school. So I think this was fantastic. I really enjoyed reading it and looking at all the photos that were included in your report. Just anecdotally having students going through our public schools right now. I wanted to also include that isn't so much highlighted in here because maybe it doesn't stand out as much, but I know that even within curriculum, I've had both at the grade 5 and the grade 9 level this year, my students were participating in acting out roles within government. They're acting out, they're using some of these fine arts skills into their curriculum, into social studies, into English, whether they're giving speeches. And I think that it doesn't show up as much in a report, but it's certainly being used kind of throughout learning. And I think that has been extremely engaging for my students, at least. And I'm sure there's a lot of kids that really gravitate to that role and that role playing kind of way of learning within their curriculum. So I appreciate that. And feel free to keep that in the reports too, that it does get woven throughout.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Stacy, and same as Camilla, I just have to talk about that for a second. Going into this fine arts and this play that they put on, it's changed the school. Like, there's over 100 kids putting their names forward right off the bat. They're going to 2 productions where they can get half the kids in one and half the other to satisfy that. And I've noticed the parents even, it's this whole thing is this other option for their kids that don't maybe make the volleyball team every time. It's this whole fine arts thing that we're doing and moving forward in our schools is, I see a huge change in our students and our schools over it. So I just wanted to appreciate the people that are involved in that.
Trustee Otway-McClay?
So I appreciate the report because it supports something that I would like to see more of, which is higher levels of funding for these programs. We've heard consistently through the year about instruments at schools. How can you run a band if you don't have an oboe? You know, how can you run a reasonably good primary music program if you don't have some proper tools? We heard the cost of drama productions is incredibly high. And so I don't want us to forget that these really great initiatives, these wonderful things that we can do and the pride that we feel in them has to come with dollars. So stepping off the soapbox now, but I just don't want us to forget about that.
Thank you very much. 8.3 off-campus education report, Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. So as provided annually, this is the end of the 23-24 school year off-campus education report, and I will turn this over to Division Principal Carrie Morgan.
Good morning, Carrie Morgan, Division Principal. Off-campus education report is loaded with lots of numbers and statistics, but I just want to draw some highlights out. Sturgeon Composite High School and the Learning Centers both had 122 total students involved in off-campus education. So We are seeing an increase and an uptake, a little bit more of a passion in it for it through our students. We've also increased our number of students in the Green Certificate program. We've gone from 1 to 4, so that's great. But that's a huge increase in 1 year. We are going to continue working on advertising that because there are a lot of students who are interested in those agricultural career paths. And we've had the person that we work with through Lakeland College come in, and she has really sold the program to many students as well. In Redwater, we've had a significant increase in students and credits earned this year. We had an excellent off-campus coordinator in the building every day. Students could access her. And it was really a year of rebuilding some connections with a lot of those small businesses in and around Redwater. Also with our connection through careers, our coordinator through careers assisted us with the RAP placements. We had a brand new placement with Pembina. Pembina created a new program, and one of our Redwater students was successful in getting that position. So that was excellent. Dual credit also has increased a little bit this year. We are looking at adding in a couple of more things within the existing grant for next year, namely fourth class power engineering that will go in conjunction with the same grant that we had for the educational assistant program, which, you know, didn't have the high enrollment this year, but we can continue to promote it. And in conjunction with the new fourth class power engineering ticket. So we are looking at that for the fall, and those ads will come out for the students. I think overall, we've seen great success in our off campus this year. The students had a direct line to a teacher or coordinator in the schools every day, which is really, really important. There were some challenges, but we are working through them and making sure that the students get what they need, particularly those who are off campus a lot of the times in my RAP program. So we've had a great year. It was a really good year for growth. Thank you. Do you have any
Trustee
questions?
Briggs?
Mine is just a comment. I just want to say that this is so important to involve our communities with these programs. And it's been a hard couple of years getting kids back into the swing of things and getting companies to open up. So it's so nice to see that our partners are getting bigger and bigger. And I just noticed a couple spelling mistakes. We noticed that 2BK is spelled different in 2 different ways. And the most important one is John Deere has no E on it. As a rural school division, we have to spell John Deere correctly. So
Thank you.
Trustee Murray Elliott?
Trish Murray Elliott, Ward 4, and this is just a comment, which is thank you very much to the team, because I know it is a lot of work and there's a lot of coordination with our external partners. And I think it's really important that we continue to provide these amazing opportunities to our students. So if you could pass on to everyone, good job. Thank you.
Trustee Buga?
Stacy Bugle, Ward 5. Just for clarification, on the course enrollment numbers over the last 4 years that is at the bottom there, it looks like this year was a fair bit lower than last year. Is that me reading that incorrectly? Just the 22-23 SCHS course enrollment was 247, Learning Centers 21, and then 23-24 was 126 plus 52 summer school. And just if you can, maybe give some feedback on why that is, or maybe there's more credits being, I don't know. Thanks.
Dan Stephen, Division Principal. I'll speak to the learning centers. When I was asked to give this number, I just kind of took over the learning centers off campus and gave the number of students that I had at that certain point in time. As I've been digging and wrapping up the work experience review, I realized there was a number of students that were already awarded credits before I took over that thing. So I'm going to guess that they are, when there's 13 now, I think there was at least 10 students that have already awarded credits and wrapped up before I took over. So I will say that numbers probably wasn't as accurate as I found out afterwards. That one anyways.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, I just want to say with this program, because in my employment, I was responsible for that program there, and we got a lot of good students. There's a lot of good training, a lot of safety in that. But the key thing that I think success is we had a lot of phone calls after school from companies saying, I hear this student was in your RAP program there. Can we get a reference type thing? So I guess to me, that always put a positive to it, that they're getting some experience and some those type of things that they're passing on to wherever they head to in the future. And we got quite a few phone calls, so it's a great program.
Thank you. We'll move on to 8.4, Indigenous Education Report. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Provided for your information is a summary of our 23-24 school year, and I will turn this over to the Director of Education Planning, Shannon Campbell-Requa.
Thank you. Shannon Campbell-Requa, Director of Education Planning. It's an honor to bring forth to you the opportunity to celebrate Indigenous education and student success this year. I will provide a really brief overview of the key strategies for Indigenous success that were outlined for you earlier this year. First and foremost, our priority around growing local community partnerships and intergenerational connections has truly been an opportunity for celebration. This year, we have seen an incredible increase in the number of individual knowledge keepers, community members, and elders who've been actively participating in our schools. I would like to thank the contributions of our Indigenous student counselor, who has been instrumental in facilitating genuine relationship, particularly in Camilla and Four Winds schools. We've also been developing a relationship with Elder Adam North Pagan, who is the current president of the Legacy of Hope Foundation, and who's provided some invaluable guidance and support to Lillian Chick and Redwater schools. This year, for the first year, we will host a Division National Indigenous Peoples Day event. This is an opportunity for us to connect with a large number of community supporters. We will bring opportunities to connect with over 15 different cultural experiences for students, along with the opportunity to gather, and we will bring together students from Four Winds and Camilla with support from Sturgeon Composite High School students. I'd like just to highlight that this initiative has been led out by students and student leadership teams in each of these schools, and I think that's what I am most proud of. I will put a fine note that this is the first event of this scope, and if you are willing to come and celebrate with us, if you could keep that in mind, that would be greatly appreciated. I would also like to just do a quick highlight and a thank you to the Alexander First Nation language instructor, Caitlin Arkan, who's providing Cree language for the first time to Sturgeon Composite High School students through our Aboriginal Studies program. I think this also highlights the incredible progress we've made in terms of community relations with Alexander First Nation. There are a list of cultural events that we continue to grow and develop, increasing participation in culture camps, leadership opportunities, and other events. We have focused intentionally on reciprocal relationship with Kapotiko Education Center this year. It was a bit of a highlight when we attended the CAS Indigenous Gathering, and our partners in KEC spoke publicly about the positive relationship that we were building. And that was indeed an honor, but also a challenge to our team to continue to dedicate ourselves to finding ways to offer, to not only receive from Kapotika Education in terms of cultural connections, but also to move forward in a reciprocal fashion where we are supporting our neighbors as well. Family nights have been a huge success this year. After a somewhat slow start in Camilla, we've determined that through building relationships throughout the year, it's really an opportunity to bring families together, and had excellent participation in both Williamshick, Four Winds, and Redwater schools. These individual connections will indeed lead to the first Indigenous parent advisory group, and we intend to meet before the end of the school year based on parent availability. We continued focusing on holistic student support this year, and were able to actually reflect and track data around connection points. And so there were over 3,200 individual student connection points, and these are through our Indigenous Education Lead team members. We also completed year plans that will continue through school counselors and learning support leads next year. I would like to lastly highlight the learning experiences for all staff, because while we've worked really hard to deepen these cultural connections, we've also focused on strengthening our relationships with Indigenous academic scholarship. So this year, our keynote speakers for PD Day were PhD candidates from U of A, who were also all educators and proud Indigenous folk. We also saw the growth of a division called the Action Cohort, and really focused on some intensive experiential and academic learning opportunities. So again, striking that balance of how do we move forward together in community, and how do we ensure that the most up-to-date and current information is provided to our teachers in the learning experiences we're providing. Looking forward, there are some really incredible opportunities that have presented themselves through the deepening connections we've made. I would just highlight perhaps that we are exploring the opportunity to work with a scholar from the University of Calgary, who focuses only on collaborative projects between public school divisions and band operated school jurisdictions. And we have some agreement in terms of exploring that opportunity, which is a huge success. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss and to bring you back the information of the priorities we outlined at the beginning of the year.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate all of the divisions' work with increasing our partnership, and the divisions working with the numerous amount of elders in the call to action. So, Trustee Buga?
Stacy Bugo, Ward 5. Sorry, I guess I'm like, this time of year, I'm just excited and emotional, and my kids are bringing home all this information. And I just wanted to share that on during Pride Week, one of the events that the town of Morinville hosted was a Two-Spirit paint night. And so I brought my son and my mom with me. So my son is in grade 5, and there was a lovely Two-Spirit person that kind of shared some information about the history of Two-Spirit and where that term came from and how it's evolving and it's continuous. And it was fantastic. And at the end of the night, my son, who, you know, maybe didn't have the greatest time, he's like, I didn't know it was going to be another social class. And which I thought was, you know, okay, fine. He did his painting and he did okay. But the fact that a young Two-Spirit person can sit and talk about the history of Indigenous people, the struggle of the Two-Spirit people, and he saw it as a social class. That means that there's representation in our schools. This wasn't unfamiliar. This was language he knew. This was very familiar in the fact that it was so familiar, it was boring to him. And I think that that is really indicative of what is happening in our schools, in our classroom, that it's not unusual. It's not something that is new to our kids. I think adults there were like, oh my gosh, right? Like we learned a lot more as adults because we didn't know. But our kids are really feeling it, and they are quite comfortable, and knowing that Indigenous knowledge is foundational and it's part of everything. And so I really appreciate that. And all of this report, this is the highlights, but again, it's in the classrooms and it really is in our kids, and they're growing up in a completely different world because of what you guys are doing in the classroom. So just a little personal shout out to all of that. Thanks.
Trustee Briggs.
Thank you for the report. I'm feeling quite challenged on Friday because I'm invited to my community, but of course I want to go to Sturgeon Con. Do you foresee anything in the future, possibly incorporating National Indigenous Day so that all of the divisional schools could participate in one place?
Superintendent Warren.
If that was a suggestion that the board would like to consider, that can be something that can be brought forward as discussion if that's the role of the board.
Thank you. 8.5, third quarter financial report and forecast June 2024. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to turn this over to the Associate Superintendent of Corporate Services.
Sean Nicholson, Associate Superintendent of Corporate Services. I'll be passing this in a second over to our Executive Director of Financial Services, as he did the majority of the work on this. I just want to point out that we have gone through a practice of trying to forecast out our Q3. With any kind of forecasting, there's a level of uncertainty. Myself and Franco are both new, so there's a little bit of additional uncertainty there because we're not familiar with the cyclical changes, but also as we improve financial practice to create more consistency and things like that, that could create some shifts. The thing I just want to mention is that, as noted, we have estimated that will be a little bit lower than the 4.2. Any change in our surplus or deficit will be managed through kind of what we transfer over to capital. So if we see a little bit of surplus, we might transfer a little bit more over this year, so that we don't have to do that for next year, to either free up some money for some cost pressures or potentially to help bring our reserves back up to that midpoint we talked about in our budget discussions. I'll pass it over to the Executive Director.
Thank you, Executive Director Franco Maizano. Sorry. This report is up to for Q3 up to the end of May 31, 2024. That brings us to 75% of the year and 90% of the school year, September to June. In the report, you'll see that the revenues should be targeted in around the 75% because those are paid over 12 months. Other areas like transportation, you'll see that being closer to a 90% mark because most of their costs are incurred from September through to June. In looking through the report, just highlight a couple of things. Facility services expenses we're forecasting to be a bit higher than what had originally been forecasted. There's a direct correlation to utility costs being a lot higher than what was originally budgeted. As well, there were a couple items that were not included within budget, and those were the portable demolitions or modular demolitions at I believe it was Redwater and Lining Trails. So we've incorporated that into these numbers. As Sean spoke to, the trend right now based on our forecasts show that we're going to come in slightly ahead of budget. But as we're still fairly new to this, there still might be some adjustments or some things that come up that we're not necessarily caught at this point in time. But in mentioning the work, the actual hard work was done by our finance team. So I just want to give an acknowledgement to our team that they actually met with all our departments and all of our schools and put this together and actually did the brunt of the work. So thank you.
Oops. Trustee Dwyer.
Just a quick question, maybe you can't answer now. In Four Winds and Camilla with our solar panel and our roof and utilities, is that in here? Is that piece of this, of our utility expenses? And the reason I asked, I know it's a funny question, but I'm just wondering how much that affected our utilities in a yearly basis.
You're wondering the cost savings
Yeah,
from having
Yeah,
solar?
I'm just wondering, in the budget item, and maybe that's not a question for you guys, but it's something I wouldn't mind knowing in the future.
Oh, well, yeah, we can follow up. Usually, when you're using solar panels, there's tracking that's done at the school level, and it usually just comes off the bill.
Mhm.
It's not usually highlighted out in our GLs or anything like that, but we should see reduced costs in electricity for that building. But we'll have to look up to figure out exactly.
Trustee Olway-McLeay?
I just wanted to thank you, Franco and Sean and the team. This report was pretty helpful. I think this is a good way to stay on track quarter to quarter through the year. And I appreciate a lot of the graphing. I'm a visual learner. So you know, to me, it's always about, are we red, yellow, or green? This looks like a pretty green piece of information, so I'm pleased, and thank you for the ease of read.
Trustee Pequin?
Jane Pequin, Ward 1. This is the first time we're seeing this like detailed, heavy graphic report. So I really look forward to next year when we can like start it off at the beginning of the year, and because this was a lot of overwhelming for me, who's not the most financially. So I'm excited for this new process. I love this information. So I'm really excited to see next year how it makes budgets maybe easier on.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, I appreciate it too, but I just want to be clear, is this, so we're saying probably with the audit report will be around 4 million deficit for the year?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
and that's in line with budget. Those budget was a 4
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Thank you. 8.6, communications report for May and June of 2024. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I will turn this over to the deputy. Mr. Conrad.
Thank you, John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. Provided for your information is a highlight of the work that the communication team engaged in over the last month. We'll see highlighted and hopefully you've seen it in other fashion as well, perhaps social media or whatnot, our promotion of Guthrie School, which is positioned well to be attractive to a number of families that have yet to find their educational home there. Also, we did celebrate diversity and inclusion across all our schools through our Pride Week. And there is a webpage as well. If you haven't seen it, I recommend the trustees take a moment to look. It highlights some of the ways that we support all the people that are part of our communities. We had some fun with Hats On for Mental Health. For those that were a part of, and we have already talked a bit about STEAM games here at this table, but it was wonderful to once again bring schools together and celebrate the creativity and just tenacity. Not maybe tenacity is the wrong word, but like the students were so involved and participatory and were wonderful to be a part of that STEAM event at the Composite, and it's nice to have that back. And congrats to our sports team. This one, we're highlighting the high school rugby team, which was phenomenal success. Just an incredible hard work for those young people, and congrats to them. And so we highlighted some of that work. You can see mentioned where we've been mentioned in the news and has been highlighted a variety of ways here. One of the large events is National People's Day coming on the 21st, with all schools will be involved in one way or another, celebrating and honoring and learning about Indigenous peoples.
I also just want to do a little shout out because I saw it last night that our very own Mr. Chabot is doing a session for the Rupert's Land Institute. So I was pretty proud to see that little post on social media last night. Yeah, so great work, communication. Trustee Otway McClay.
Feel like we can't go any further until we acknowledge how amazing Deputy Superintendent Jonathan Conrad looks in cereal boxes. It is really, really your color.
Hey, well, thank you. 8.7 Superintendent's Report. Oh, Superintendent Warren, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Sean Warren, Superintendent, again, provided for trustee information is my superintendent report.
Any questions? Thank you. 8.8 Administrative Procedures. Superintendent Warren.
Thank you, Chair. Shauna Warren, Superintendent. I will turn this over to the deputy. This was provided to trustees a week and a half ago for your information, so that I hope that you've all had time to read through the admin procedures, but I will turn it over to the deputy.
Just before I turn it over to him, if the trustees are okay with Mr. Conrad doing his little report, but is it okay if we don't go through every single AP, just if you have a question within that AP? Because there's quite a few, but if you want to go through each and every individual one, we can. Thoughts? I'll let Mr. Conrad give his spiel.
Thank you, Chair. John Conrad, Deputy Superintendent. And thank you for your careful review and reading of our administrative practice. Just to remind, to remind the board, we have a tracker that reviews all of our APs over 3 years. And the volume of why it's coming forward now is the team with administration in schools, but mostly out of central office, have been in review of this for some time, for months, really. And I'll make note that some of it was done clearly through Google. If you see a variety of colors, I just want to let the trustees know Google doesn't let you turn all change and all comments to a single color. So you'll always see a variety, but we have always done this in collaboration. So even before, when there's only the red for changes, it could have been a collaborative conversation in the room when one person was typing, or however it was done. But I just want to let you know, if there's a variety of colors, we're not trying to highlight one edit over another. It just happened to be that day I was purple and someone else was green. So just for your information. Very high level though. And we also, we appreciate every department, and certainly as services is like that, to bring APs together when a related policy is being reviewed. And so some of these we were looking forward to when policies would come forward. So hopefully we'll get better alignment with that next year. But that's also why some of them kind of built up until here. And it is information. These are administrative procedures. You can see a fair amount about insurance because we have a new insurance provider. So we had to address that. You'll see some parts that clarify, children protection, interviews of external agencies in schools. We see a significant number of that happening in our school. And so we reviewed it anyways, but we sought a few clarifications based on good practice in other divisions and actually talking directly to external agencies so that we can make sure our practice is supportive for our children and families. We want concise information, so you'll see we took the counseling and the school health and created one comprehensive school health, capturing all that information together in one AP. You'll notice several different APs and exhibits that talk about the responsible and ethical use of AI by students and staff. We'll continue to stay in this, continue to look at guides and support for our students, but we needed to address in some part in our procedures so that our admin and teachers feel supported and understood as a division a little bit what the boundaries are in the use of that. And the last, there was some AI in the student conduct as well, but we also wanted to highlight some restorative practice because we are seeking to do more of that in all of our schools for the health of our school communities. That's the highlights I wanted to say, but prepared to take any questions.
Trustee Buga?
Stacy Bigo, Ward 5. For AP 500, has to do with child abuse, neglect, reporting, that kind of thing. Just out of curiosity, it doesn't show anywhere in there where staff is being trained to find or how to navigate. Is there training procedures in place for staff? Because I know I've taken it through Little Warriors. There's a lot of organizations, but just curious, as it doesn't seem to be outlined in the AP, or maybe I missed it. There's a lot of pages there. Thanks.
Thank you. And while there is some exceptional trainings that schools do, like Little Warriors, I've been part of that training as well. We have consistent training through our school counselor group is the core of that. And some of that is covered in the school counselor handbook, which we've reinvigorated this year, and other areas that Learning Services supports directly. Thank you for noticing it's not here, but absolutely it is part of our consistent training for staff that are in all schools.
Thank you. It is 10:11, and how about we take a 10-minute wellness break? We'll be back at 10:21. Okay, so welcome back. We will carry on with 9.1, the chair's report. So it's been submitted. Highlights from it. June 1st, Redwaters grad. It was lovely to be a part of that small, give you goosebumps kind of environment for those grads. So that was really well done. And then carried on from there on the Sunday to the ASBA Spring General Meeting, which you'll get more information on at the ASBA. On Monday, the 17th, there was a virtual meeting with the education minister around use of personal mobile devices in school. Basically said that his announcement was coming at 1, to which the link was provided for all of us. If you didn't get a chance to watch it live, you can use that same link to see the YouTube video of it. We already have a policy in place, but not everybody in the province has that policy. So as of September or late August, depending on when the school division start date is, that's when the start of the minister's mandate is. And boards have till, I think, the beginning of January to have their policies in place. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Indigenous activities on Friday and our last week of awards and school stuff. That's my report. Let's go to the right this time. Trustee Buga.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, June is a busy, fun month. There's lots going on. Grade 9 farewell for WINS, grade 9 farewell for our SPVA students moving on. I participated in the Morinville flag raising or pride flag raising ceremony on the 11th. We were invited as a division, as supporters in the town, and it was really nice to see the representation from Sturgeon Public Schools. Our vice principal from Four Winds was there, as well as our superintendent and myself. And to me, I mean, I knew a lot of the people attending the event from different worlds, whether it was the library or community members or town council themselves, but the support in this town has been so incredible for Pride, and I'm really proud to be part of it and to be invited to participate in that. I stopped by the Morinville Public School Family Carnival. This was something that started back in 2012 when we were, 50 students trying to drum up community support for our school, because as you all know, that was a really rough time. And it's continued every year, and it's now, instead of the parents running it, it's the staff running it. And there must have been at least 800 people out there for a barbecue on a Tuesday night. So it was fantastic. I'm so proud of that little school for continuing and, having such a positive community around it. I'm going to also be attending the Morinville Public School. There's going to be a pipe ceremony and feast next Tuesday on the 25th. That is, again, I'm really amazed by how community-led Morinville Public School is. This is a collaboration with a parent of one of our students there. It's not formally a division recognized, it hasn't come from the top, it's come from our families. And I think that that's really important to support those kinds of things. So I'm happy about that. Alternate learning graduation dinner's coming up as well. So we're going to celebrate the grads there, as well as the grads at the comp on next Friday. Thank you.
Gotcha. Otway McClay, Ward 6. I apologize, my report is not in the package. It shall be soon. It hasn't been overly busy, but it's been a full month. Highlights for me is that we had the Mayo School Council's AGM and 28 parents came. Yes, so we have a brand new council, a passionate group of people, moms and dads, which is incredible to see. And I'm looking forward to next year. Guthrie School Council was very good, well attended as well. New parents showed up on the last meeting, but it was wonderful to see. So I have high hopes for Guthrie's Parent Council next year. And then, yes, next week is going to be a whirlwind of craziness, but I'm so excited for it. There's awards, there's farewells, there's all kinds of stuff going on. So excited for that.
Trustee Marie Elliott.
Trish Marie Elliott, Ward 4. I attended my report has been submitted. I attended the grade 9 farewell at Sturgeon Heights, which is always a fun activity. To think that some of these kids joined us all those years ago as kindergartners waddling down the hallway, and here they are grown-ups. It's such a wonderful celebration. Leaving our school. I did have a school council this month, and it was on Monday, which coincided with the Minister of Education's announcement on cell phones. So there was a lot of buzz about that, and everyone's wondering what that's going to look like. I guess we'll have to have discussions. I don't see a lot of changes, but people are excited about that. The athletic awards ceremony at Sturgeon Comp is wow. It's always long, but each athlete is acknowledged, which is wonderful. Carrie Meadows is amazing. We had a thunderclap and the packed gym lost power, and she gave her little groan and then smiled and got up and dealt with it in the midst of a million other things she was dealing with. So kudos to Meadows. She does a great job. We tragically lost a teacher this year from the comp, and that teacher was the coach of a volleyball team that was very successful, and the entire volleyball team gave a very moving presentation for that teacher, and it was a wonderful thing to see, very touching. That teacher's father was also present and spoke a couple of times, shared some words, and but he also reminded us that achievement in sport in a school is a direct result of support from the division. And so we do have a great successful program. And so I think we have to remember that and thank our leaders that they do support sports and achievement in our division, and that it does provide great opportunities for our students as well. And finally, we were reminded about all the amazing coaches that we have. We have not only teachers, but we have former students, central office staff, just an incredible team that makes the whole program so successful. So it's a great ceremony. And that's about it. Looking forward to the Sturgeon Comp graduation at the end of the month.
I apologize. My report is not in the package because today snuck up on me real fast. So some of my highlights, clearly Redwater grad. I cry because I don't know why. I'm just so emotional. And my nephew was it was beautiful and it was great. And I actually got to go to the evening ceremony this year because my nephew was graduating. So I was there as an invited family member. It's just, yeah, makes me cry. Redwater School also did their book and athletic awards already. So I was at that, and it's just nice to acknowledge all those kids that, you know, for the academics or the book awards and then the athletics. I went to the year-end concert at Redwater School. We get our stuff done early at that school. I think the biggest compliment came from my son because my daughter was practicing and he's like, wow, she's actually making notes in music now. So that's some dedication to those teacher who puts a lot of effort in with those band students for the year-end concert that my 14-year-old found a compliment in there. Oak Park had their parent council, and they also, Dallas Arcand came to Oak Park for a award or for an assembly, and it was just the way he talked to those kids and he explained, some of the history behind the hoop dance and the music and the flutes. And there was one little guy who really wanted to participate with Dallas, and he just rolled off the punches and explained how in his culture, we call these, I don't remember his wording, but he was just so gracious, and it was the kids were enthralled with it. It was absolutely great to see. And my book awards are coming up at Oak Park next week. So beginning of my month was busy. The end tends to be a little quieter because we get ours done soon. ASBA conference. Unfortunately, we missed Rural Caucus with Redwater Grad the night before. We just didn't get to Calgary in time to make it. I hear Danielle Smith, they threw the agenda away and Danielle Smith just talked to Rural Caucus for 2 hours. So it's very unfortunate that that wasn't announced ahead of time. It was kind of a spur of the moment, and we didn't make it in time. So I'm a little sad that that got missed, but it's a long drive.
Trustee Dwyer?
Yeah, thanks. We had a parent council meeting last night, actually, and there was a couple of presentations there. One was a lady that's involved with this Fit and Fierce program, which some of you have heard, and she'd like to bring it into Camilla School. It's an after-school type program for girls and 4 to 6 and that group, and then 7 to 9, that type of group. I'm well familiar with it because Rotary has been a big involvement for years on that and supporting it. So she did a presentation. It's a fantastic program, well awarded program. It's all about wellness for girls and stuff like that. And so it looked like everybody was interested in it. It looks like they're going to talk more and try to make that happen there. The grade 9 grad was great. They really simplified it this year, which was, to me, was cool. It was good. It was just done so right, and it was simple, it was quick, not made into this big thing, and the kids loved it, and all the parents loved it from what they said to me. So that was really good. On Friday, we have the National Day of Indigenous at Camilla. I'm going to be attending that, I believe, I hope. So I'll be at that, but there's not much more than that except for attending the regular things. Oh, there was sorry, the other presentation, just for your information, was a couple parents want to talk about the large grade 3 classes next year.
Steve Briggs?
Because I'm the last one, mine doesn't look any different than probably everyone else's. My report has been submitted. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all our staff, from teachers to EAs to bus drivers, to have a wonderful, safe summer. And we look forward to partnering with all our parents and students and staff next year.
Thank you. 9.3 Committee of the Whole report. It's a draft. It's in information. We will approve it in the next Committee of the Whole meeting. It's there for reviewing. 9.4 Rotary report.
The only thing I have to report on that at this time is that we are working with the Interact group out of the University of Alberta to how they can work with our Interact group at the high school, and how maybe there's some support there or something like that. So it's all in conversation right now, but that Interact, from what I understand from our leader there, is that they're very interested in that. I think that'd be well accepted thing for those young girls to start talking to some of the Interact 10 guys. Interact Club at the university and just start to learn where they're at. So I think that's kind of cool.
Thank you. 10.1, Alberta School Boards Association. Trustee Pequin. I'll let you start,
That's super great.
unless you would like me to just
The
start.
spring conference was great this year. We passed the budget without too much I think we were done by like 2 o'clock on the Monday.
2:30.
2:30, so there is an increase in the budget. 4% I think is what they proved. There was no extraordinary statements or anything like that. You guys have been getting emails about the fall general meeting position statements. So zone 2-3, because we're technically 2 zones, we can forward 6 position statements to the fall general meeting to be discussed on the floor. So the voting comes out for those for ASBA on June 20th. Whether you agree or not, just because ASBA moves it forward doesn't mean, or zone 2-3 moves it forward doesn't mean it's going to pass the floor. So I feel like zone 2-3 has under 6 right now. I think they're at 5, so those were in your emails. I've got a few responses and we will follow those out. There is no June meeting for zone 2-3. I feel like that wraps it all up for me.
Okay. I'm hoping it's in the right place. I'm sure it is, because I asked Crystal to make sure I put it in the right place. I did do a written report on the spring general meeting. That was the 4th to the 6th. No, not the 4th to the 6th. I did that wrong. 2nd to 4th. I'll change that. Just with some of the things that went through. So as Trustee Pequin had said, we arrived too late for rural caucus. And then when we were there for the ministerial engagement and Alberta Insight session, that's when we learned about Premier Smith being at rural caucus. So anyway, we got other ministers that we got to listen to. And the session it provided members with the valuable opportunity to hear directly from the elected officials and political observers on topics relevant to the Alberta's education system. They had the Minister of Advanced Education, Minister of Immigration and Multiculturalism, and the Parliamentary Secretary for Health Workforce Engagement. Key takeaways that I got from that was that I learned that the Education Ministry of K-12 and Advanced Education, they actually have a 10-year capital plan together. So I learned that. They have implemented an anti-racism plan. And in the notes, I've linked the Government of Alberta anti-racism site and their plan. There's 27 action items, I believe. And then the other thing was they're looking at the growth of careers and the increase in funding. So there was positive feedback with that. They're aware that there's a need to invest more into RAP and dual credit. Oh, missed the C on that one. The Minister of Advanced Education said, maybe in budget 2025, we'll see more money for that. Then after them, we had the Public Affairs panel, which I actually enjoyed more. And they had the two, I always say this wrong, there's Polister. So Janet Brown was there. Jason Litar, and then there was a reporter, and sorry, her Mrs. Roquette, because she's French. Yeah, so they were informative, you know, most pollsters are. Key takeaways. The government's the typical 4-year cycle. Your first 2 years, you're going to see a lot of policy and a lot of fast policy. And in years 3 and 4, that's when they're gearing up for the next election. So you'll see money and more to do things. So they said, remember that MLAs and the premier don't have to come to our events because the election's 3 years away. So consider it a positive thing that they will consider doing engagement with us. So the reporter, she said, really, it's just having relationships formed with reporters. And I think our division has a good relationship with our communication departments and our media. And her takeaway was, if you want to capture media attention, act like a reporter and pitch the story. Then the ASBA president's address, she talked about their strategic plan, their calendar for speakers corners. There will be an updated calendar for the coming year to zone chairs in August. September of 2024, ASBA will launch their new website. And they brought forward their 23-24 annual report, which you can see on their website. With the general meeting, there were 3 emergent statements that were brought forward. None of them passed to make it onto the order paper. We had the budget discussion, like Trustee Pequin said, and we adjourned at 2:34 p.m., which is an ASBA record. And then on the Tuesday, I attended the Navigating Legal Implications and Ethical Considerations for AI Policies in Education. I was very happy I went to that one. So I have linked in her slide deck, and then she also had a resource library as well. For getting to know AI. So it should be all in the ASBA shared file on our board Google Drive. And that's all I have to say. 10.2, Public School Board Associations of Alberta. Trustee Murray Elliott.
Trish Murray Elliott, Ward 4. The SBAA Spring General Assembly took place in Calgary, May 30th to June 1st. My report has been submitted, so I won't go through everything there. Just to say, most of the presentations were very entertaining and engaging. On top of what Irene just said, one of them did make a point of how we should use stories when we're speaking to get our points across. And that was kind of a fun thing that we worked on. The slideshows, which everyone is encouraged to view, have been posted to the PSBAA website. And I'll move them all onto the local one as well, the Google Drive. The summer meeting is August 7th to 9th in Grand Prairie, and I've heard a couple of you express interest in that, but we'll see how that goes. I won't be able to attend that myself. And just a reminder to ask for student land acknowledgements for future meetings. And we received a thank you card from PSBAA for the lovely gift basket that we brought to the event. So we had to leave slightly before the end. Ours was lovely. I think they were saving best for last, so I don't know who won it and haven't heard, but hopefully we will get that information at some point.
Thank you. We don't have any unfinished business. Any comments or questions on the agenda items from our gallery? Okay, moving on. Can I get a motion to move in camera? Trustee Otway McClay, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. We will move into camera, and then we'll when we come out of camera, we'll probably be breaking for lunch, so we won't be